The rule of Saint Benedict, which we have as our rule of life, it begins with the word listen, listen my son. So we take listening as one of the principles of our Benedictine life. It can be when two people come together to spend time with each other, really listening as a quality interaction with the other person. Whereas listening today can be when you sit down or I sit down with a friend who's struggling and hear what's beyond the words, what's deeper than the words. Not all hearing has to be in that depth. There's a time when we have banter and lighthearted, foolish carrying on. But there is a time and a place when we need to really be able to listen to the other person. I think it requires certain dispositions. It requires presence. It requires openness. It requires non-judgmentalism, courage, because a lot of times what the other person needs or wants to share with us is very difficult. So you're personally invested, you're passionately invested, you're all in, you're there. And that's real presence. You don't, in that moment, have to be anywhere else. You don't want to be anywhere else. You are totally there for that other person. Many of us could cultivate better listening, and we've become very individualized in that. When I walk around campus, I witness countless people, who have their earbuds in, and you greet them, and we don't hear one another. That's just basic hearing. That's not even listening, but just basic hearing. And I think what happens is we create a cocoon around ourselves. And instead of being more social, we become very individual. And that doesn't mean, and I'm not getting down on, listening to a good podcast or good music. I do it myself. But I believe that we could all unplug a little more and be more personally present to one another. You never know when somebody's going to come and really need you to be there and listen. You can't necessarily schedule that into your day, and so maybe you have something planned and you need to be somewhere doing something else, and as sure as you're sitting there, that the person across from you needs to talk to you now. And sometimes it can be hard just to say, John, let go of the rest of that stuff. You can get back to it. This is where you need to be. For me, that's maybe the hardest. And when you don't know what to say, because sometimes the best response is sacred silence. I don't think listening is being practiced wisely when we're out to score the big win. If that's the goal, I find it's hard to listen, because mentally I know that I'm trying to build the argument. I am just trying whatever I can do to blow that person out of the water. I try not to do it, but once in a while. And I know it happens a lot. You listen to a debate, for instance, in this political year, in this election year, listening just has taken a holiday. We shout at each other. We insult each other. We we're trying to win. And I understand winning debate, but truth sometimes gets sacrificed. Quite often, I think, gets sacrificed when we don't listen well and again try to enter into the reality, the experience of the other person. Listening to things that aren't words, being out in nature, listening to the wind blow through the trees, listening to the birds down the Abbey garden when I'm working down in the garden. That gives me hope, because it helps me to see that the community of St. John's and St. Ben's is bigger than just the people, but it's everything around us. And then that goes out wider into the world.